When I bet, I like getting something back, win or lose. That's why we're excited to announce our new partnership with Fanatics Sportsbook. It's the only sportsbook that gives you fan cash when you bet, win or lose. Use fan cash on all Knicks, NBA, or other fan gear, as well as bonus bets, collectibles, and more. It's the most rewarding place for fans to place their bets. Download the Fanatics Sportsbook app now and let the fan cash flow. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Connecticut residents, call 888-789-7777. Massachusetts residents, call 800-327-5050. New York residents, call 877-8-HOPE-NY. Maryland residents, visit mdgamblinghelp.org.
What's good, beautiful people? If you can hear the sound of my voice, then that means you're locked into Casual Friday on the Knicks Film School YouTube channel. I am Jeff J. That is Andrew Claudio, aka GMAC, and we're here to talk about the New York Knicks, the week that was, the week that will be, playoff edition. Shout out to Sean and Chris for holding it down last week. I'm in the building. I'm ready to talk all things Knicks. GMAC, tell me how you feeling, man.
I'm feeling great. That was an experience last night. Not just watching the Knicks get a big win, not just seeing the Knicks get a big win in a raucous environment that wasn't Madison Square Garden. Shout out to the city of Detroit, even though game ends at 48 minutes, not 47 minutes and 35 seconds. Getting to watch it on playback with you and have us lose our minds at the end when we thought the Pistons were going to get a random ATO because the clock operator screwed up, and witnessing maybe some of us on playback getting a little more upset than usual. Shout out to the madman himself, Mr. Macri. But it is always a good day, the day after a Knicks win. Jeff, how about yourself?
I'm feeling good, man, and I'm feeling even better after yesterday, after last night, because I feel like that was the first team to have a complete performance from bell to bell. That was the Knicks in this series. And it's ill to think a couple of different bounces of the ball, we could be talking about them getting their first win of the series. A couple of bounces another way, we could be breaking the brooms out on Sunday. But I think that's a testament to, first of all, the Pistons being tough, being being pests, and being nuisances, and being young and taking full advantage of the opportunity that they have, the opponent, and the Knicks really starting to find themselves. One of the biggest things that we've had here throughout the course of the season has been talking about these guys finding their identity. Who is it that you want to be? And once you decide, now you've got to show it to us. You've got to show it, and you have to be the optimal version of whoever it is you want to be in order to have a chance to win. And I think last night you saw as close to the optimal version, give or take. It's the playoffs, so I'm grading it a little bit on the curve for runs and comebacks and all of that. But in terms of what this offense could be, in terms of how it should look, in terms of everyone doing their job, doing what they came here to do, this was one of the first times, and maybe the first time all season, where I could say every starter did their job, at least very good to excellent. And it showed against a quality opponent.
Shout out to the newsletter. I thought Macri brought up a good point that Brunson didn't play all that poorly. I know he got picked on defense a little bit. Detroit brought him into the action a ton. It's partially why Tim Hardaway Jr. and Dennis Schroeder felt the space that they did to kind of go off in the first half. And like Brunson ends up being your worst starter of the 5, and it's a night he went for like 39-7. And I co-signed how every starter played. Anunoby, I mean, he looked gassed at the end of the game. So any offensive issues, I'm not gonna blame him for. A guy played 40+ minutes. Cal Bridges, much maligned. I thought he had a good bounce back performance, filling up the stat sheet, especially on the defensive end, getting put onto Cade at a certain point. And look, to your point about optimal, the fact that it felt very balanced, the attack against the Pistons. This wasn't the Jalen Brunson show. There was no like freezing out of anybody else. It outside of like a 6-minute stretch to start the third quarter, I was very okay, like very satisfied with the offensive process. You know, they played with pace when they had to. They utilized ball movements and cutting when they had to. When it was time, because you had a bad defender on an island, you cleared out and let them cook. And I will say, and I'm curious how you feel.
Yeah,
we're talking a lot about how well they played and how good they looked for a team that won by 2 points. It is, I don't know how you felt coming into the series and what your prediction officially was, because you were doing much more important information work last week over at WrestleMania.
Yes, sir.
But like the whole Knicks in 5 movement, like get these Pistons up out of here, which I admit the Knicks are a better team, and I've said as much. The only worry I had about this series wasn't Pistons related; it was Knicks related. Which team was going to show up? Are they going to be serious enough to win this thing in 5 games? So, seeing how well they played and how optimized they were, love that word. The fact that the Pistons still made this a 2-point loss, are you viewing them a little differently? Or are you still like, we should still wrap this thing up in 5?
So officially I said Knicks in 6. Okay. And that was more about the Knicks than it was about the Pistons, because I figured there would be at least 2 games that the Knicks tricked off, or it would be a combination of they at least had one of those we're gonna lose a game we should win games in them. They got one of those in them. Then the other one, I said, okay, maybe Detroit plays a complete game. They're just hot. The clock does not strike midnight on Tim Hardaway Jr. and Malik Beasley and Dennis Schroeder. So for those of y'all who weren't watching playback, I've been saying this the whole series as to why I'm so confident in the Knicks. And I said, okay, if you are telling me that this current Knicks squad has to overcome Dennis Schroeder, Tim Hardaway Jr., Malik Beasley, and Tobias Harris, and that's not shitting on their individual skill. I have seen their movies. I've binged them. I've watched the series. I've even seen spinoffs. I understand these characters and the way that they operate. I also understand where their ceiling is. And what I say is, yeah, sure, they may have individual performances here and there, but at some point, the clock is going to strike midnight. The clock is going to strike midnight, and they're going to turn into a pumpkin. I call it pumpkin time. Now, Dennis Schroeder, he is the great pumpkin. If you watch Charlie Brown, I said he's the great pumpkin because he is a different type of pumpkin that is not turning into a pumpkin. You can't leave him open. He's built for this, right? He's built for this. Tim Hardaway Jr., the whole time he was getting hot, I said, this can't last. The clock, I moved back the clock for Tim, and that's the best compliment I could give him. Is that I was like, oh, you're adding time onto this, so you're not going. But then as we kept going towards the end, and you could watch the playback, 11:55, 11:57, Beasley came into the game at 11:59. That's how off he was. The dunk added a couple more minutes. Yeah, that's probably why he didn't get the tech.
Yeah.
The dunk was so crazy. Even the ref was like, damn. Like, everybody was just like, oh, shocked. That's why he didn't get the tech. But my whole point was, I don't believe, and shout out to Tobias Harris, who's having an excellent series. Like, other than last night, of course. But the first 2 games, he's done everything that probably Sixers fans are looking around like,
yeah, where was this?
Where was this last season? I knew that the Knicks had the talent and the team to overcome the Pistons, but I didn't know if the Knicks had the talent or the team to overcome themselves. That was the whole point where I said Knicks in 6. I'm still confident in that because for all the talk about last year's team, I watched last year's team trick off that game 5 and play a close game 6 where we needed Josh Hart to knock down threes so that it didn't come back to the Garden in 7. I've seen that. It just is what it is with this team. There isn't a ultimate killer instinct to not trick off games. And you can see it across the league. It happens.
Yeah.
After this game, I feel way more comfortable about game 4 than I did coming into game 3. I think this team has adopted some of the identity of last year's team to where, these guys are, what's the term? Chronically online. They are aggressively online. So they hear all the chatter. Mitch and Josh, especially, they are super online. They're like the Matrix. They're cerebral cortex plugged in online. They know what people have been saying. They know what the chatter is. And I think for the first time in the series, they finally said enough. These guys are trying to push. You see Cat responding. Now Detroit as a city has a new sports villain that they created in Jalen Brunson, where they wanted to curse him out and the F you Brunson chants. And now they've earned the right to have a new villain. It's cool to be on this side, Andrew. It's really cool to be on this side. But all in all, yeah, I feel more confident about 5 than 6 after game 3. I want to see them keep the same energy for game 4 and on. Like there's no more regression. There's no more excuse to regress. The only way they should win the Pistons should win a game from this point out is if they're lights out from the opening tip to the final buzzer. That's the only way.
Yeah, I'm starting to think that it's just one of those series that. Well, so for starters, the Knicks are just getting nothing from their bench right now. Like they got a stretch in game 1 from campaign that is like one of my favorite stretches of the season, that campaign stretch. And I look at what they've gotten from their bench the rest of the series, where Landry Shamet's been barely playable. Tibbs benched campaign and Landry Shamet basically in the last 2 second halves, although Cam did play at the beginning of the fourth quarter yesterday. Deuce has had a couple of Hail Mary threes. He actually hit a gigantic 3 on an out of bounds play last night. And looking at the final score, it looms even larger than that being a final, that being a deciding factor in the margin of the game. So it's almost as if I could see this also going 6 if their depth just showed. Like they needed every starter to play so well last night, and they only won by 2. You know. Now, the other thing I keep going back to, you talk about Tim Hardaway and the clock striking midnight, and as it was very fun to just every time he would miss after he went 2 of 7 in the second half after shooting like Klay Thompson in the first half, for you and I just to be like, hey, 11:30, 11:45, Timmy, 11:50. They're also like getting nothing offensively from Malik Beasley, and I'm waiting for the Malik Beasley game. It might be game 4. Where he has 7 threes, he has 8 threes, and we're like, oh, okay, we were waiting for this game. So, yeah, I'm with you that my confidence in the series is now back. I'm not as like, just win these next 2 games and we're good. I'm at the point where I don't think I'm worried that this team will lose 3 of the next 5 games. And I think, 3 of the next 4 games. Because the games 4, 5, 6, and 7. So that's more my biggest confidence right now. Is I don't think they have a 3 out of 4 against this Detroit team in them. But look, it's what I keep going back to. Credit to Detroit. They've given the Knicks a nice test here in the first round that maybe brings back some of that toughness. And maybe, look, we opened this talking about identity. Maybe it does create an identity going into this Boston series that has been sorely needed all season. And look, outside of a very frustrating game too, I'm enjoying this series to an extent. At least last night was the first time I could say, hey, I'm enjoying the playoffs now. I couldn't say that as much before that. So,
and thank you to New York, Detroit, and thank you to Clippers, Nuggets, because you're giving us something so far to watch in this series. And low-key, I think Lakers, T-Wolves too. Lakers, Wolves too. Like there have been competitive series, and I think there's a couple of things that helped this team. One is I think they finally woke up. And what I mean by woke up is they're no longer taking this series for granted. They're no longer in any way, any way, not to say that they've been sleepwalking, but now I think the stakes have finally connected to them, where they're generally a carefree bunch. They don't carefree bunch. They don't get too high. They don't get too low. They're kind of even keeled. It takes some type of challenge for them to spark up. So now they realize, hey, this young team in Detroit, they are really buying into this Bad Boys 2025 gimmick, and they're channeling it, and they feel, for whatever reason, like they can punk y'all. And you see it. They're walking by you. They're bumping you. They're talking shit to you. They're emoting. They're using your emotes against you. They're trying to push you off the block. They're trying to get rough. And the guys on the Knicks, they're not really the rah-rah, we're going to fight all the time. That's one of the major shifts in mentality that we've seen from this version versus last year's version. Because iHeart, Dante, and Julius was not having that. Maybe even to the detriment where they might lose their cool, but you knew if you tried to cross the line, they were going to pick you up and throw you right back on your side. But what I saw is you still got guys. You got guys like Mitch who will laugh at you. Like Paul Reed was trying to push him off the block, and Mitch was not budging whatsoever, just like swatting him like a little brother. Then what I really liked was Cat coming over and pushing Paul Reed. He ain't going to get kicked out the game. Yeah, you got a tech and it gave up a point. I totally understand. Actually, I think Cade missed that.
Yeah, so ball lie. Yeah.
Potentially gave up a point. But I like the aggression, and I like it because he's not losing his head. He didn't go back out there and shoot tour dates for the rest of the game and commit stupid fouls and look flustered. They're looking at Detroit like, we don't believe you. Like, this is corny. This is what you have to do to beat us. All right, now we're going to show you what it is. And in the last game, yeah, it was cosmetically close. You know, this unfortunately, sorry, GMAC, this was for the betting. This was for the books. This felt more like a cosmetic try to hit the overs, try to cover versus actually coming back. Like, yes, they followed their end of game process. Hardaway hit the three. Tobias Harris hit the three. But the first Timmy three was a broken play. Tobias Harris three was a scheme three. We're not jumping at you. We're going to let you shoot the three, whatnot. So you take away that, then also that 6-point swing off of the Brunson flagrant foul, smack in the face to Hardaway, and then they give up a subsequent three. There were certain irregular pocket runs that make this game feel closer than what it was. I think it was a tough game. I think it was a contested game. The Knicks couldn't pull away and keep away, but I don't think it was as close as the score dictates.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So
you just did.
Can I ask you a second? And can I ask you two more? Okay?
You can ask me the question. Yeah.
So I know I'm guilty of this in talking about last year's team a ton. And you brought up Hartenstein, you brought up Randall, you brought up Devo, and I don't know if you do this either. So that's why I'm curious to get your thoughts. But this season, they're one game better. They're one seed lower. And on paper, I'd argue they're more talented. They definitely have more options than they did last year. But am I and are some Knicks fans, are we the scorned X that are comparing the new person they're with to the one that got away too much? Like, do we go back to last season and what that became and who that team was as an identity entirely too much, that this team now has to live up to that when we almost haven't given them a chance to build their own identity? Now, some of that is like on their own. They just like have not built said identity. Some of that is on the head coach. Some of that is on what the team has been since the beginning of January. But it's also not like a dumpster fire. I watched the end of that Memphis game last night. Now, Ja got hurt, which sucks, but like that's a team that's in crash and burn mode at the moment. You know, what's happening in Denver right now, what's potentially happening in Milwaukee is like the end of an era. And we're just like a good team with a lot of talent in year one that got assembled 2 days before training camp and still won 51 games and is now playing a young upstart Pistons team. Like, is the sky falling entirely too much because we're used to last year and the relationship we used to be in where we overcame anything with them, you know?
Mm-hmm. I think that's an excellent question. Here's what I'll say. A little bit. I would compare it more to a person who leased a car for 2 years and then it was time to trade in the car or buy it. You really wanted to buy it, but you knew this next model that's coming out, I need this one. This has the better features. Yeah, it might look the same, but the features and the potential future proofing outweigh keeping this car. I should probably keep the next car. So you know what? Let me just trade it in. Then the minute you trade it in, some of those functions aren't as user-friendly for whatever reason, because you're not familiar with it. And what do you say? Man, it was so much easier in the version 2 years ago. It was the car I had was easier to use. It got me everywhere that I wanted to go. It was super reliable. I never had to worry about it. And even if it might have ran out of gas one time or I caught a flat tire, I always got it repaired quickly, and it was super resilient. It ate these city blocks. It ate these city streets, and it kept on going. But now this new car, it's almost like I drive it in Manhattan, I drive it in Brooklyn, and it feels like it's about to fall apart. I'm just not used to the suspension. I'm not used to all of that. Like it doesn't feel as secure as my old car did. What you don't realize is the reason why it feels so secure is because you were used to it. Yeah, it offered security, but you were used to it. And if you get used to this new car, maybe you will be finally able to experience the features and stuff to say, all right, after a year or so, I love my old car, but yeah, this one is objectively better. I might feel more comfortable in the old car, but this one is objectively better. And I think that's what's happening with the fan base right now. It's also
hold on. Before you get out to your next point.
Yeah.
That was incredible. And I need people to acknowledge how amazing at the analogy Jeff J is. Because that you just came with the perfect analogy. I was like scoring to X, whatever. That's so boring. And you actually came out with the perfect analogy. Like, you're so freaking good at this, and it just needs to be acknowledged. Bravo, sir.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. I wouldn't say yours is boring. I think it's the most obvious one to make and one that's appropriate. But when I think about it, I don't think, because it's hard to be scorned when the relationship came to a natural end and you couldn't do anything about it. We couldn't do anything about iHeart. Dante, that's the one where to your example, it's like, damn, you got Mikal Bridges. Like, I never had to tell Mikal Bridges to take the garbage out. I never had to tell Dante to take the garbage out.
Yeah.
He takes it out whenever he wants to. Like, damn.
Mikal's just leaving his garbage around.
Right.
Like, we have to compost, and Dante was always doing compost, and Mikal's just throwing whatever he needs to in the trash,
It's like, for those of y'all, if you have ever watched, this is a deep cut, but if you ever watched Sex in the City, what's her name? I think her name was Charlotte. One of her boyfriends used to leave tea bags around, like drink tea and then leave tea bags everywhere, and it was to piss her off. And I think about that, like Mikal is like the person that leaves the tea bags around. You're like, damn, I think I feel better in this relationship. I think this relationship is better than me, but I didn't have to deal with no damn tea bags around. I had to throw these tea bags everywhere. So that's why I think it is.
Again,
it is.
Jeff just compared a Sex and the City character to Mikal Bridges, and it was perfect. You are so freaking good at this, man. Go ahead.
I'm giving you props for your analogy. I don't think it was off base, but I think we are also living in and reveling in the legends of 23-24. That Dante shot. That'll be with us forever. And as somebody who was in the Garden for that, I've been to a bunch of different sporting events. I've never been in a singular, most frenetic, energetic, raucous arena for a situation that had stakes like I was in there. Like it was crazy, bro. And I understand why folks are attached. The other side, and it's something that Sean with a W always says, is happiness is reality minus expectations. The expectations elevated. You are telling us we trade these guys away. We give up all these picks. We are supposed to have a championship contender. This is no longer the fun ride. This is no longer house money. I've placed my house money and some of that extra money that I wasn't supposed to bet. I put a little extra on it. Because this is supposed to be it. This hand is supposed to be the hand, or at least lead me to the next hand, right? I'm supposed to have a strong hand. And over 82 games, we didn't have that. Or at least it didn't feel like that. It's like you got a lot of 7-6 in your head. If you play poker, if you play blackjack, you're getting a lot of 12s. Sometimes you get the blackjack. Sometimes you get 18, 19, and you're like, all right, I could work with this. But it felt like every time you played the good teams, they flipped a face card, and we didn't have any other cards. Even though we knew we could play this game. It just felt like every time we played a good dealer, we would flip pockets. We had flip pockets. And I understand. I think those expectations are what has deterred. Like, I speak to a lot of the Knicks fans and I'm talking about offline Knicks fans too. That's important. There has been, I'm not going to rant. I'm going to say one sentence. I think experiential entertainment is meant to be experienced live, and there is a different feeling that you get experiencing it live versus watching it at home. That's why the best effect, yes, so we can't all, millions of us, go to a live event at once, but that's why sometimes you have to be able to connect with the performers in any way live to get a different experience than an undivided attention experience than being at home, right? And that's why I like to talk to offline Knicks fans and online Knicks fans, because I think it's just too different. There's less incentivizing for rage and engagement, and you get the real. A lot of Knicks fans are like, I already know how this story's going to end. So I don't want to invest in this season, because if it's going to end up with a 5-game loss to Boston, we already know where you're going to go with this. So have fun against Detroit. Y'all make it to the second round. I'll tap in. I'll watch. It feels like this a wax season of a show that you really love, like a down season where you're just watching to keep up with the storyline and hope that it gets better. But then you just hope like, yo, they better kill it next season because I might not be watching anymore. That's how a lot of Knicks fans feel. It's like, yo, I just feel resigned. I feel resigned that this is over already. As opposed to last year where we could do the math and say, okay, if this happens, if that happens, if whatever, this team is hot at the right time. We really don't think in this year anybody's that much better than us, right? Like the gap was way smaller last year than it feels like it is this year. And I think had they beat Boston a couple of times, had they beat Cleveland, even if they didn't beat Cleveland, but they beat Boston a couple of times, I feel like more fans would be invested. And I think that's part of the sentiment that you feel in, Andrew, about the Knicks fans, along with everything else.
So to your point about like beating Boston a couple times compared to last year, like they did beat Boston last year. Opening night, that was a tie game with a minute and a half left. And then like Porzingis hit a big 3. And that was the RJ Emmanuel Quickley show that night where Brunson and Randall didn't play well. they went through a stretch last year where they couldn't beat Milwaukee, and like Milwaukee just like hit everything against them, and then they could. Like they overcame that hurdle in season, winning on Christmas and then winning that game the last week and a half of the season that eventually began to like it lit the match that led to them eventually taking over the 2 seed. Like Cleveland, I mean, what more do I have to say? Like they made statement wins left and right against Cleveland, including one in Cleveland when Brunson went down seconds into the game. Like they had a big win against Golden State on the road. They had like a big wins across the board last season, it felt like. And this year we have a couple wins against Denver, a couple wins against Memphis, 2 teams that just fired their coach with a week and a half to go in the season. And it's why, to your point about knowing the end of the script, you hope you learned something along the way. And I think the only time we actually got to, like, they've been using this phrase over in Pistons land. Shout out to Bryce Simon. This season's about data collection, and it's why they're going into this playoff series less focused, or at least he's going into this playoff series less focused on whether they win or lose. And it's more about how does Asar Thompson deal with his first playoff series? How does Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham and Ron Holland and JB Bickerstaff, like all of these first time if with the Pistons components, let's see how they face this situation for the first time.
For sure.
And here in New York, there hasn't been a lot of data collection. And part of that is how Tibbs does things, which is fine. But the only time I feel like we ever learned anything was when Brunson went out. And it was like, oh, you can figure out a way to win without Brunson or a way to succeed. And we'll lead into a bottom 11 offense, but a top 5 defense, which you can apparently have once again with Karl Anthony Towns on the floor like Minnesota did. And, oh, look, you can turn DeLon Wright into a rotation player. And OG Anunoby can be baby Kawhi Leonard for 3 weeks, So that's where I empathize with the Knicks fans that have said we haven't learned anything this year. And it's almost like, let me see if I can do a good Jeff analogy. It's almost like that class that you like, but it's like the high school class that you have to take every year. And like, it's history, right? So you're supposed to learn the next version of history, but for some reason you're just learning the stuff that you already knew, So it's like, why did I have to retake this class then? Right. Why did I have to go through this entire semester learning this class? So maybe it is a college course.
I need to know when the Civil War happened.
Exactly. Like why did I have to relearn this class, Or I guess it's maybe like when you move to a new school in a different state, but you have to retake the same stuff, but now in a different curriculum. So I'm not as good with the analogies as I think I landed the plane. One. Yeah.
I felt that one because especially if you go to public to private school and they're like, well, we teach math differently here. You got to learn it this way.
What's funny is I'm a shout out to my private school that I went to in Long Island, but one of my buddies left private school to go to public school, so did the exact opposite, and he felt like he was like, oh, so this is much easier, and he was able to experience it differently. And it's almost like if you were to like leave a team that you I'm assuming this is how Hartenstein felt, where he left the Knicks, where you had to scratch and claw and dig for every win and everything he succeeded at, and then he went to the Thunder and they're just like, oh, we've lost 7 games through the first 4 months of the season. This is much easier than what I used to be. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, man. I totally get it. I totally understand. At the same time, this is what? 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe the 5th time this decade I get to experience playoff basketball as a Knicks fan. Because what was it? They went in the first 2 years of the 2000s, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like 2000, 2001, 2001, 2002. Then they didn't, maybe 7th.
They didn't make it in 02. They didn't make it in 02. It was 01 was the year they lost to the Raptors in the first round.
So 01. Then we had 11, 12, 12, 13.
So there's actually a sweep at the hands of the New Jersey Nets in 06 that doesn't get in 04, 05 maybe. Whichever year the Nets lost to the Pistons in the second round. But like no one remembers that because it was the first months of Isaiah Thomas. Yeah.
And then the last 3-4 years, including this year.
Mm-hmm.
So recently we've been able to experience to the point where younger Knicks fans expect excellence now. They where I was when I was a teenager watching the Knicks, right? When I was young watching the Knicks, like that's kind of like where the history is repeating itself. I don't have the luxury to disregard a playoff run for any of my teams at this point. You get to the playoffs, I'm fully invested because as I've seen, anything can happen. Imagine being a Pacers fan and saying last year, man, they're a fun team, but I'm going to check out. What happens? You get one injury here, second round. You're 2-0 down against the Knicks, and then everybody starts collapsing. All the Lego bricks start falling. They disassemble. We're in the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah, y'all lost, but you made it. And if you ask any logical Pacers fan, would you expect conference finals? They probably would have told you if everything breaks a certain way, they would have to break down how it breaks a certain way, and it broke that way for them. Jason Tatum right now is dealing with a bone bruise in his wrist. Jaylen Brown has an injury, his knee. Like it looks fine. He looks fine, but there's no guarantees. And I also believe that you can become stronger as the playoffs go on. You can you can get right. You can find what clicks and build upon that game after game, because with these elevated stakes, there is no room to space out or to disregard what's happened before or to downplay it in any way or to be able to feel as if you can flip a switch. The switch needs to be on until the electric company comes collecting, right? The switch needs to stay on, to stay on, run that bill up. That's how it's got to be. So I believe you might have said it. I've heard it of a bunch of places, and I had this idea. And when I heard other people reiterate it, I felt confident, where the consensus was it was good that the Knicks lost game 2. Because if they were able to overcome their own mediocrity to steal that game, because I don't think they stole game 1. They came out in the fourth quarter and destroyed them. It wasn't like a last-minute shot and follies. They overwhelmed the Knicks, and MSG overwhelmed the Pistons in game 1. So I don't think that was a theft. This would have been Grand Theft Auto, Grand Theft Sports if the Knicks would have beat the Pistons in game 2, because they earned that win. And they almost melted down again, but they didn't. I think once you have an L on your ledger for the playoffs, now you have the opportunity to say, we have to address what's not working. We cannot win in spite of it anymore. And we have to come out with a certain energy, especially series tied, lost home court advantage, going into an environment unlike what Madison Square Garden was a few years ago, where you haven't seen playoff basketball for a while. These fans are hungry and ready, and they're going to be on your case. Your star player has been put on the Summers Jam screen and officially has his wanted poster in every post office in America as being a suspected foul baiter and foul grifter. It's right now, it's SGA is number 1 and Brunson is probably number 2.
What do you make of that he's now he's getting the Trae Young treatment that we gave him in the playoffs 5 years ago? Now Brunson is I don't know if the mayor of Detroit's going to go out in a press conference and say, please stop the foul baiting or the flopping, as de Blasio once said. But I couldn't believe that he's now the guy. And like Sean and I got into it on playback last night. Like, how dare you call him a flopper. And I had spent 2 days being like, I think Jalen Brunson might be a flopper at this point, a foul baiter, which look, it's what I was hoping he would get over in game 3 was not hunting for fouls. And to his credit, I thought it was very rarely was I thinking, oh, you went for the contact more than trying to get a shot up last night, which I got to give him credit for.
100%. So here's where I'm at with it. I don't think his baiting it diminishes his talent. I think he has a talent where I know he has a talent. It's evident. He's like first in clutch points, first in let me see if I can pull this up real quick. 5, 4, the first in clutch points, first in fourth quarter points, first in points in the playoffs, total points, first in free throws, right? He shows up in the playoffs. I have an issue when it feels like he's playing unnecessary chess with the opponent, where you're trying to make a point that if they're going to beat you up and they're not going to call, you are going to force the refs to call foul on you. And I think that disrupted his personal offense and the team's offense. This is the first time where I've seen Brunson take this whole foul thing personally and take a game so personally that it was an ultimate detriment to himself and the team. I've seen it before where they're going back and forth and he gets into his clutch mode. He might miss a shot or might miss the game-winning shot. I don't think that it's a bad thing, but you could tell he was so upset with the way he was being hit and playoff style calls or lack thereof that he made it a point to try to get Asar Thompson out of there. And he was hunting contact instead of playing his game and getting contact while you're in the flow of the offense. When he held up them 6 fingers, the first thing I said was, y'all better win.
Yeah.
You're doing too much now. Now they're in your head. Now they're officially in your head because y'all not even up like that. And you're holding up 6 fingers. You are celebrating fouling out a rookie. Yeah, maybe he was talking shit to you, all of that. But is he rookie their second year or their?
Regardless, it's Asar Thompson. This
Right.
wasn't even a Men Thompson. That's not even like disrespect to Asar Thompson. Has a chance to be a really good player in the league. That's what frustrated me too, Jeff. This is Asar Thompson.
What are we doing?
This is the Isaac Okoro of 2 years ago. I wanted him to be on the floor because then there's a place for you to hide on defense. But you were so focused on fouling him out that, I mean, it's probably why Dennis Schroeder closed, because Asar Thompson wasn't on the floor and was able to hit the big shot at the end of game 2.
Exactly. And I think one of Brunson's superpowers is accountability. He has superhuman accountability. He knows when he messed up. We don't got to tell him. Although there are times where I've said, I don't want to hear I got to be better. I don't want to hear it's on me. We know. Just be better and get it off you. That's
what did the timeline call him? Accountability man?
Yeah.
When he was like, I got to say, it's all me. It's on my shoulders. Yeah.
You want to talk about I don't even think he's a foul merchant as much as he's an accountability merchant. He's an accountability every time. It's like, yo, I know I messed up. I'm like, yo, okay, we know. At this point, we know. Just stop messing up in that way, please. That's why I always respected Josh Hart when he said, guys, I'm going to do some dumb shit. Like, just give me some grace. And I said, okay, if you just do it in the first half, just don't do it in the fourth quarter. I'll even give you that. I'll even give you the third. Just don't do it in crunch time when it matters, right? But I think his accountability is where you see the change from game to game. That game 2 was indefensible. For any of the foul baiting, foul grifting allegations, it was indefensible because he made it a point to do it. Like, he went out of his way. Being crafty and clever enough to get those fouls, every superstar does it. Every superstar. To his credit, the only guy I don't think that I've seen do it is Cade, because he just hasn't learned yet. Soon he will, because he's in that Dwayne Wade mode. So once he starts doing the 85 pump fakes and then on 86 you jump and then he leans in, everybody does that. I have a problem when you hunt it and when you disrupt your own offense for the sake of trying to draw fouls. So when we got to Detroit, I totally get why what. If I was a Detroit fan, I would have been screaming F Jalen Brunson too, to the highest levels, because it's nasty. It was ridiculous. And I don't even think he's on that level, but I think folks have been craving to call him a merchant and to call out his foul baiting for the last couple of years. Because you got to remember, the Knicks are the greatest anime in the history of professional sports. And Jalen Brunson is the main character in this anime. So he goes through arcs. The first arc was he's not tall enough. Then it was he can't do it in the playoffs. He's not worthy of being he didn't do enough to be an all-star. Then, he's not really an all-star starter. Now he's an all-star starter, but is he a superstar? Then he proves it again in the playoffs. Then it's, he be foul baiting and grifting all the time. Do y'all really want to watch this? This is how I know he's ascended to superstar status. Because now when you have to talk about his game in the derogatory way, so to downplay him or to get banter off, now we know that he's here. But he earned it. He earned it in game 2. So I understand why the fans were going off like that, but they also have to understand with great chants and great trolling comes great responsibility. And you now are creating something. You're creating a villain that already existed. He just did not want to turn into a villain.
Yeah.
A lot of y'all will see Thunderbolts. Y'all will see Thunderbolts. If y'all see that movie from Marvel, Thunderbolts, remember this analogy. Jalen Brunson has always been the sentry. Detroit, you are turning him into the void. You're turning him into the void. And eventually that void is going to consume all. So be careful what you wish for. I hope y'all think those chants are going to rattle him. Worse environments haven't. And I love it because he's on our squad. We finally got one of those guys certified, guaranteed.
So 2 things. One, Jalen Brunson, 12 points in the fourth quarter last night.
Captain Clutch.
Let me double check this. Only 4 of them at the free throw line, which just made me even happier that he was hitting shots. And the only time he was okay, I'm actually annoyed it wasn't 6 points at the free throw line. He went 4 of 6, and then someone else again -2.5. I was just staring at it. Make your free throws, Jalen. Second thing, did you just spoil Thunderbolts for me?
No. It's his character. It's his character.
It's the dude in the commercial in the trailer.
In the trailer, when you see everybody turning into
like ghosts into ash.
Yeah, it's not. I did not. That's the character. Like it's out there. It's out there.
I wasn't accusing you of
no. I know. I'm just telling you
that's not. Anything. I just I
haven't seen Thunderbolts by you.
Okay,
I'm just talking from the Marvel character.
I was gonna try and see if I can get info out of it because I bought my tickets yesterday for next weekend, and I believe it's next. Yeah, it's next weekend that Thunderbolts comes out, and
right.
If probably the only way I'll be able to see Sinners in IMAX is that a theater opens up because people go see Thunderbolts.
I'm trying to go see Sinners myself, brother.
Dude,
we'll see.
Shout out to just word of mouth is creating this movie, creating a movement around this movie. In that I'm trying to see this movie in IMAX because I've already seen it in like regular laser and like I told you the story last night, but for people who haven't heard this yet, like where I live in Queens, there's a Limax theater nearby. Shout out to Fresh Meadows. That all the showings all weekend are sold out. I haven't seen that since Avengers Endgame, where all the showings for days in the theater are sold out. And the next time I could see it is at 12:30 a.m. on a Sunday night, which I don't know about you. I'm not going to see a movie.
I'm not built for that. I'm not built for midnight.
I'm past that age where I can do past the midnight showings.
I'm not built for that.
So anyway.
But trust me when I say if that is like the least, that's going to be the least of the Thunderbolts concerns. If it follows, I won't tell storylines that I know, but I just know if you want to know what the black thing was called.
It's the Void.
Yeah. It's the Void. So think Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde.
Okay. Gotcha.
Right. And it's gonna be evident. Like it's like it'll be like if I told you the Joker was crazy. You're like, oh shit. Like tea in China and all of that. So what does that have to do? Right. So
okay.
But yeah, long story short, y'all are creating a monster right now. And you're creating a monster that was already created. I put it to you like that. You're creating a monster that was already created. So I just love the fact that Let me ask you this, Andrew. How does it feel to be on the other side of a player chant?
It was a full evolution. I loved it last night. I know that I'd have to talk to Sean because I want to speak for him about how much he hated it, but he just he felt, from what I could tell, like, how dare you, like, and I think it's because of years of slandering Trae Young, not realizing we have Trae Young at home. Like, I think the fact that, I mean, you said it last night, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I think the ultimate sign of respect is when that happened. This happened I always have to go to a Mets analogy, Jeff, but
I love it.
So David Wright, when in 2013, the All-Star game was at Citi Field, and David Wright was Captain America before Aaron Judge, was on the Team USA for the World Baseball Classic, one of the most beloved players in all of baseball. And then he was named captain of the home run derby team. We used to not know how to do the home run derby in baseball. We had like teams at one point. And he had to pick 4 National League sluggers, and he didn't pick a guy named Pedro Alvarez. And it was the weekend that they were going to Pittsburgh. And every at bat that he went up to the plate, David Wright got booed by a raucous, at the time, packed house in Pittsburgh. And it was like the first time I saw David Wright vilified, by like a random fan base. And it wasn't like the Phillies or the Braves or like
no prior history.
Right. Like, and that I think is what's adding to the novelty of this series. Is I have no beef with Detroit whatsoever. And if they weren't playing the Knicks, this would be such a fun team to watch and respect. And because they're playing the Knicks, I have to have this other part of my brain that kicks in where it's like, no, you're the enemy. You're the other team. I have to root against you, even though I kind of respect what you've built and how you've played and how you've succeeded this season. He won 14 games last year, and now they're chanting F Jalen Brunson in playoff games, like a guy that started the All-Star team and is going to make an All-NBA team for the second straight year. So
it's like looking into a mirror, bro. It's like looking into, I told you, it's like Looper. It's like Looper. Yeah. You're facing the younger version. This Detroit and New York got a lot of similarities as cities. There's a mutual respect there. Not even caping for Brunson. I don't know if he deserves FU Brunson. Maybe Brunson sucks. I don't know if he deserves FU Brunson. Maybe because of the 6 fingers, right? That
I think I think our perspective, and this is just, I went on the Pistons Pulse on Tuesday.
Yep.
And took a peek at the live chat. There is absolutely animosity for Jalen Brunson. I think our perspective was like, oh, we see Jalen Brunson do this every game. Like, get contact, get to the free throw line.
Yeah.
And the animosity and the frustration boiled over
in game
because he started to make it part of his strategy, it seemed, that I'm going to get to the line. I'm going to foul this kid out. I'm going to get Tobias Harris up in the air and do the same thing at the end of the game for a 3-point foul that led to 3 free throws. Again, I think our perspective is that he's a captain and he's changed. I know from my perspective, he's changed my life forever. I finally get to root for a Derek Jeter, and outside he's like a step above Trae Young because he's efficient, so I recognize it. And maybe this is eye-opening for a lot of Knicks fans that they actually got to see how the rest of the world, and at least in Detroit, feels about us and about
and he earned it. And that's the point that we got to be real about. He earned that motherfucker because he was going crazy with that man was duck hunting fouls. Like that, it was a different type of, like, he should have ref zebras on his wall. That's how much he was hunting them fouls. Like, it was crazy. So yes, from the Knicks fans' perspective, I'm like, damn, that warrants a FU Brunson. But if I was a Detroit fan and someone started to chant up, fuck that, fuck Jalen Brunson, right? Like, who is he? Then that's when you start going into his bag and try to pick apart his game. Like, all he got is the foul baiting. Like, because you also got to remember, if you don't have a history with a team, what do you go off of? Reputation. And that's primarily built in the NBA through national media. If you don't tap in with local media, you get it from the national media and what they're saying on broadcast and what they say in national papers and what they say in national outlets, right? All the different type of national outlets. And this Jalen Brunson be foul baiting has been bubbling all season. So if you hear that, like, you listen to previews, what do we got to watch out for? He's crafty. He's cunning. He's, he's mysterious. Like they start throwing all those adjectives that makes him seem that he has guile. Like all of the adjectives that say that you are smart because you're underhanded. You're calculated. Like, you know how to deceive and trick. You're up to some type of chicanery. Like, it's a negative connotation. Like, if I call you clever, that's a positive connotation. If I call you cunning, I'm still calling you clever, but I'm acknowledging you do some sneaky shit.
Yeah.
You're smart because you know how to utilize certain underhanded tactics to your advantage. What did they call it? What did Windhorst call him? The master of the dark arts. Now he's all of a sudden the master of the dark arts. Words mean things. When Trae Young and James Harden still exists in this NBA, he's the master. But I think it goes to show, with the elevated national profile, your game is going to get scrutinized more. But do believe, Andrew, Detroit fans are happy as hell that they're playing the Knicks, because that means they don't get relegated to NBA TV, which people like to call like a tertiary network, where you don't get because it's not in as many homes, so you don't get as much popularity. They were loving this Knicks series because their young team would be on the national stage consistently for the first time in a minute. So, it's a win-win. And I'm actually happy they did that, Andrew, because now I'm into it. Now I feel emotionally connected to this series, because now y'all made it personal. So, oh my God, like, it's taking everything in me not to find a way into that building on Sunday. Everything.
Yeah, for sure. You were saying that last night on playback. Like, it's taking everything in me not to look up tickets to Detroit. Like,
because I should not go. I've been doing.
You went to Game 4 last year, though. It would be tradition if
it would be
Game
tradition.
4. The problem, if I can make the announcement, you're going to be doing the monologue with John on Sunday, so you actually have to stay here.
I do have to stay. Oh, there's ways to be mobile and do it.
That is true. You could log into StreamYard from Little Caesars Arena.
That would be crazy. That would actually be crazy.
I gotta be honest.
They definitely kick me out. I don't feel like being on a Public Enemy #1 in the Midwest.
Yeah.
The Northeast, it's all right. It's fine. I live out here, but the Midwest, I'm like, whatever. But it's that I would encourage fans to travel also.
If they let you, remember that they're not letting Knicks fans into the LCA or whatever they call it. Like,
I guess unless you got Ben Stiller and Timothy Chalamet.
Yeah,
they look the other way. Spike might not be allowed in that motherfucker.
Yeah,
they not letting Spike. But I hope Spike goes to Game 4. I hope Spike goes to Game 4.
I gotta say, for a building that they're trying to build up as like this intimidating place to play in a raucous arena, I have to then laugh when I just have to go pizza, and it's like, oh, this is Little Caesars Arena. No disrespect to Little Caesars, I enjoy my junk pizza when I can, but
their wings are low key.
Listen, if you've been in college and you lived near a Little Caesars and a hot and ready was all you could afford when you want to watch football with your friends, Little Caesars saves the day. Okay, $9 for breadsticks, a 2-liter, and a hot and ready. Feed an entire dorm room, folks.
I'm never too good to eat no Little Caesars, man. To not eat Little Caesars, I should say. Like, Little Caesars hit the spot.
When you're balling on a budget, my goodness, man. Of course.
But can I say something real quick to Pistons fans, Andrew? Yo, man, y'all ain't been in the playoffs in how long? You bought a ticket, stay until the end. What did Alan Hodge say? Traffic can't be that bad out here. That you trying to be. Like, I get it. Y'all were frustrated. Y'all, damn, they didn't win. But they still had a chance. It's the playoffs. That's like leaving with 5 seconds left in March Madness. Like, what are we doing? You committed, stay. I'm not going to call y'all fake fans. I'm not going to do all of that, because we don't have that emotional animosity for me to be getting banter off on y'all. But it looks The same way Jalen Brunson's foul baiting looked crazy in game 2, y'all leaving that game with 5 seconds left looks crazy enough for folks to call y'all fake and to say y'all not really fans or to say y'all are front runners. That even worse, to say y'all are front runners, because it was all good when it was F. Jalen Brunson, but you didn't have enough faith in this team to try to make one last ditch effort, especially when your timekeeper in the table try to pull the Motor City screw job.
My God.
Bro, if y'all go back to anything that we didn't play back, go back to that play. You want to see people losing their minds and realizing in real time what was about to happen? Because I said it, I was like, okay, if they got a review, Detroit technically has possession because they grabbed that rebound, but the clock wasn't supposed to go off anyway. So they have to keep the ball. So they have to take it out of bounds. So they just got a timeout that they didn't get. The Knicks are only up 2 because they purposely missed the free throw. So this could end up like Christian Laettner from 3. And that could be how the Knicks go down 2-1. Oh my God. You have to see the progression of the realization of what's going to happen and the total revolution that was about to take place if the Knicks lost that game. And I don't know how you felt, Andrew, but had the Knicks lost that game, everybody should have been the fan base, the organization. I'm talking about as far as we're not playing game 4 unless y'all give us game 3 back. Like y'all change what happened, because now you would have been setting a precedent and you might have already done it. Where if you get to the table, you do whatever, you can get yourself another possession and another timeout. I've never seen that shit before in my life. I
wonder if the NBA had ever seen anything like that before. Like, how much can you account for? So I will say this, and this was announced last night. The clock operator is apparently a neutral party. So it wasn't a Detroit clock operator that did it, but that adds to the human error, creating an ATO opportunity for the Pistons that, to your point, if anybody wants to go watch on YouTube, we'll also be uploading the full broadcast for our patrons later this afternoon.
Yes,
please go check that out, because to Jeff's point, I've seen Jonathan Macri get very mad over stuff in the past over the course of time. Sometimes it's stuff he's happy about, right? And the slow progression to like, wait, no, that can't happen. What do you do? And just the angry Italian that suddenly showed up on our screens in playback, and then they won, and he was like still mad. And I was like, okay, everybody, deep breath. The Knicks won. They won the game.
You know what it was? Macri said, "That's not our ball. That's not our ball.
That's not our ball. That's not our ball." He was LeBron on the bench.
Yo, have you ever seen the LeBron clip in the bubble when he was talking about an out of bounds play? That was the progression, but it was slower than that. But then when we found out, like I know me, I was just like, yo, I'm not even gonna get furious at this. I want to see what the fuck happens, because if they win, even if they tie the game, that has to be played under protest. Like they, at the very least, and I was saying they should shoot the free throw again, because is there an opportunity he could hit the shot and in a better position? Sure. But you know what he's trying to do. Or if it was the Park, we would have told them, hold the ball. We're going to start the clock, 3, 2, 1, and y'all try to take whatever the fling is or whatever it is that you're going to do. Like, we would have reenacted the scene. But you can't do that in professional sports. But there's no way you could be gifted a timeout and an out of bounds on a human error. I'm sorry. You got to run that. There's probably going to be rule changes. There has to be a rule change after that, where this is just a scenario they never accounted for, but now they have to account for it. And the rule change should be, if it goes off before somebody touches it, replay the down.
Yeah. Look, I went on Game Theory last night to talk about the series, and Bryce and Sam Vecini, they went into how is Jalen Duren inbounding the ball? Like, what? That was such a dumb decision. How bad he is at inbounds plays. And I respected that they were trying to break it down from a process standpoint, from a Pistons perspective. And I just chimed in at the end, like, that was great. I was glad to hear that analysis. I was just so mad at the clock operator, and I just looked up and the Knicks had the ball again. I didn't even see the turnover.
Oh,
It was so quick that it was like I didn't care about what the Pistons were going to end up doing. And then Bryce chimed in with, well, like I didn't think the play mattered either because there was 0.5 left. And I brought to his attention, this is the same team where Mitchell Robinson got caught on a pump fake and it turned into a 4-point play from Tyrese Maxey where they blew a 6-point lead with 30 seconds left last year. It's the same team that I watched Luka Doncic go for 60, 20, and 10. And the Knicks blew a 9-point lead in the final 30 seconds. Then this is the same team this year that against the Hawks, they blew a 6-point lead with 10 seconds left. Because Josh Hart decided to inbound the ball to the other team underneath his own basket. And in slow motion, we're all like, oh my gosh, this is going to be a tie game, which you think about football, the quarterback that doesn't have any receivers, but knows that the Joe Flacco, like, I'm just going to throw it downfield and hope for a pass interference. That's what I was afraid of, that Duren was just going to throw it down toward the key and somebody, whether it be Cat or Brunson or whoever, was going to commit a stupid foul. And then the other team gets 2 free throws. That's what I was afraid of.
100%. And they couldn't foul because they were down 2 because Brunson missed the free throw. And then oh my God.
It would have been so bad. It would have been so bad.
It would have been horrible. But, all's well that ends well, I guess. They're going to have to change that rule. They're going to have to change. Like, I would be at the forefront of changing that rule. And it's,
well, now they have an example to point to of like, we didn't account for this ever happening. Now we know if the clock operator fucks up, just replay the down.
This was our, remember Homeboy, because your memory is ridiculous. Remember Homeboy on Detroit, another Detroit, the opposite of the screw job. Remember the Tigers game? Was it
Galarraga? Yeah, yes. Jim Joyce. Yeah.
Who threw a no-hitter.
Perfect game, dude.
A perfect game, excuse me. A perfect game, and he called them safe. And that was the catalyst for replay.
Yeah, that pushed it all the way through. Because back then, baseball, so for those who don't know, in baseball, there is a no-hitter where a pitcher or the other team, a team, doesn't allow a hit over the course of a baseball game. It's a no-hitter. It's been like 150 of those, right? There's only been 27 perfect games, and it's where there's no walks, no errors. It's 27 up, 27 down, a perfect game. And in 2012, 2013, the Detroit Tigers had a pitcher named Armando Galarraga, and baseball had started to dabble with replay. It was only boundary plays. Like, you could review whether a home run was really a home run, I think, at this point in the sport. And the umpires union, being very strong, was like, you can't take away our autonomy and authority. And then for the 27th out of a perfect game, it was a play at first base, and the umpire called him safe. And on the replay, so very clearly out. And it
was egregious. Like first of all, Andrew, let me
like by 2 steps. This wasn't bang bang. It was 2 steps away from being an out.
You table set unlike no other. Like, you explain things vividly clear where I can see everything that you're saying. So you table set clear. I just want to add on, just like you said, it was not bang bang. If it was bang bang, I would say that sucks. Regular eyes to the point where everyone on the field had conceded that the perfect game had happened. The whole crowd cheers. The other team is walking off, and he hits safe, and everyone is just shocked.
Yep.
Everyone is just shocked. And there's a pride, because I guess, and this is a super tangent, but Andrew's deeper into baseball and lore and all of that than me, just in rules and everything baseball related, actually. I think there is a Pandora's box mentality by the umps to where if they call something, they cannot reverse it because it leaves the door open for future calls to be reversed after review that isn't a replay. So like he called it safe. If his boys would have came up to him on the staff and been like, yo, you got to reverse that. It's out. He's actually out.
So they could do that.
Because you can't do that because then you open the door for future deliberation. Although they have deliberated shit in the past, like, oh, do you have stickum on your glove? Oh, this ball looked a little weird coming out of your hand. Let me review that and then change you to you getting kicked out of here. They have done that before, but for outs, safe and out, they don't want to do that. Because I think what should have happened was they all get up and just say, yo, you have to reverse this. And mind you, he had a 28 out perfect game.
Yeah, an imperfect game. Yeah, literally. That's what they call it. So I watched a documentary this last offseason. There's a good documentary on this game. It's called, I think, The Imperfect Game. There's like an Ivy League school that did a study on this game, like wasted school resources because they wanted to petition baseball to reinstate the perfect game, to reverse the call retroactively. And baseball was like, that this was cute, kids, but no. But the whole point was like, because Jim Joyce, the umpire, after the game, like went and looked at the replay, saw how wrong he was. And to your point, normally umpires are like, I stick by my call. It's human errors. I get right what I get right. He was like, no, I fucked this up. I ruined this kid's night. He threw a great game. I respect the sport too much. And then he became a spokesperson for replay, that we need to be held accountable. We're only human. It was a fascinating movement that happened. But to your point, that's the thing that sparked it. Look, this is like to complete the tangent in full. Do you know that I once went to umpire school? Like, have I ever told that story to you? I know I've told it on air before.
Surprised.
So my dad was an umpire when I was in high school. Like, aside from being a pastor, aside from like all his IT work, like it's like very easy money if you like baseball and don't mind being yelled at by parents on a Saturday, right? Like, it's like very easy. It's all cash. And so when I graduated high school, I played baseball all throughout for 4 years. Last year, varsity, shout out. And I wanted to stay close to the game for the summer after I graduated. And I decided to go to umpire school, see what it's about. First day there, the chief of the section that we were in, he asks everybody there for orientation, like, hey, welcome. Quick question to get things started. What is your definition of the strike zone? And I go, I look around and I see nobody is raising their hand because they're afraid. And I'm like, all right, shit, I played baseball all my life. I could answer this. I raised my hand and he goes, oh, Claudio kid. All right, go ahead. What do you got? And I go, so it's like right below the chest to right above the knees and the width of the plate. He goes, oh, that is a very good definition of the strike zone, but it's 100% wrong. Sit down. And I was like, whoa, okay. I'm about to learn something that I've never known before. And he goes, gentlemen, this is the most important lesson you will ever learn. The definition of the strike zone is whatever the umpire says it is. Welcome to day one. And I was like, oh, okay. This is what y'all think this is. You know, this is what the authority that we have given officials. Like, it's a foul if I say it's a foul. It's fair if I say it's fair. Jalen Brunson gets a call if I blow the whistle. Like, that's the thing that we have rewarded to officials in general. And it's across all sports. So that like has informed how I view any frustrations I have with the officials the rest of my life. That happened almost 20 years ago. And it's stuck with me since then. So Galarraga completed a perfect game if Jim Joyce said he threw a perfect game. And unfortunately, he didn't. He gave up a hit.
It's just interesting that the city of Detroit would be at the center of two different sports, and two different paradigm shifting calls that could change rules in a game.
Yeah.
So that's ill.
Yeah. That was a good rabbit trail we went on from the clock operator.
I like nice filler episode in a series.
Yeah.
You see him go on an adventure.
Can I read some things from the chat before we get out of here?
Yeah, please. Let's go.
So shout out to our friends over at the Sixth Man Show, who says, shout out to our friends at KFS. Keep up the great work. Also adding, wish us luck tonight. We need it. Is Jason Tatum playing game 3?
He was doubtful. Let me see. NBA injury report today.
You can find this out live on air.
Let's see. What's it? Oh, today's 4/25.
Yeah.
He's doubtful.
So he's still doubtful.
Tonight.
So no Tatum. You might have a good shot tonight.
Might have to hit the music. We might have to hit the music tonight. We might have to hit the music. I'm looking forward. We need y'all to hit the music at least once in this series. At least once.
It remains a banger, that Orlando Magic theme
yes,
song.
Sir.
I wish my wife didn't love that song more than Go New York, Go New York, Go. But I respect that it's a bop.
Hey.
Oh, you too? Jeff! What is... No! No!
At worst, it's equal. At worst. Because it's it's that vibe. It's that like Orlando Magic, Orlando. Like it's like Go New York, Go New York, Go. And you know what it is? It's like distinct for its cities. But like Go New York, Go New York, Go is like so New York. But the Orlando Magic is like some 70s, 80s type pop, type disco. It's almost like genre versus location. So it's one of those styles make fights. Oh my God. I won't say I like Go New York better, but the Orlando Magic song, it's closer than I thought it would be. Because it's just shout out to the social team because they've elevated it to a whole nother level.
So I told the guys at the 6-man show this, but like that song has invaded my marriage to like she will say mundane things like, please do the dishes. Take out the garbage.
God.
It's like she'll put it into normal things, and then like we're leaving the Knicks, the KFS and MSG game that we do every year was against the Magic, and they lost. And I texted her when I was leaving to like go to find my train at Penn Station, and I say, "Hey babe, leaving soon." She's like, "Did they win?" And it's like, "No, Magic won." She went, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and then sent me a voice memo of her singing Orlando Magic, Orlando Magic.
No.
I almost
different type of trolling. And we don't really have beef with the Magic.
Oh, I got nothing. I got no smoke.
That's what makes it also easier to like the song.
Except just not as much as Go New York.
Not as much. Yeah. Not as much, but a lot.
Yeah. Tommy Jones, I'm way behind, but that leased car analogy was so good, Jeff.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
Cosign. And then our only real question today from Anthony Sixto, Knicks Film School. Question, reading Blood in the Garden, think the Mikal-Charles Smith situation rhymes at all? He's asking, does Charles Smith and Mikal Bridges, does that rhyme at all? Both being killed for what came before them, perceived more negative than they are. So Charles Smith didn't get traded for 5 picks. If I remember that portion of the book, like Charles Smith, his injury history was not as well known by Knicks fans at the time, and Ewing also just like was not as receptive to him being there, especially for Mark Jackson, a guy that he loved when he was there. It's a decent comp, Anthony. I'll give you that. The problem I think with Mikal is like was welcomed with open arms when he came here and has seemed to reject some of the identity and culture that was already built here. But look, it's not a fair comp. That maybe the fan base and maybe the organization has been a bit unfair to both when they made their first appearance in a Knick uniform, at least throughout their first year in a Knick uniform.
Yeah. And honestly, unless Mikal has a Charles Smith moment in the playoffs, I don't think you could ever make that comparison because Knicks fans accepted Charles Smith until that moment. And then he became like, he's not Benedict Arnold, but it was kind of like saying his name had the same feeling as if you said, it had that same visceral reaction. Like when you call someone Benedict Arnold, you could never name somebody Benedict Arnold. If your last name was Arnold, you would not name your son Benedict because it has a connotation of being a traitor, right? Like when you hear Charles Smith in the Knicks, all you remember is Smith stopped, Smith stripped, Smith stopped, Smith stopped again. That's what you remember. No matter how well he might have performed, no matter big moments, it's the one thing that rings off in your mind. And to give you an even more apt comparison, Even John Starks game 7 in 94, he has that stigma, but nobody replays that over. Not that many people replay that over and over when you hear John Starks. You know what you replay? The dunk. The dunk somehow supersedes that one game, although a lot of fans, myself included, were pissed as hell at that one game. But the difference is we kind of resigned to the fact that Riley didn't take him out, as opposed to, why do you keep shooting? Well, you got that lease on the green light from your coach leaving you in. You got here with you. He was going to leave here with you, which, funny enough, we talk about rigid coaches. Tibbs is in his tree. And I do think if Tibbs was coaching, Starks would have sat.
Especially if he had a different option, like X-Man was on the bench for that. So
you would have saw Hubert Davis time if Tibbs was the coach, which is ironic. But yeah, I don't even think that's fair to Mikal yet. And I will say I'm glad Charles Smith has still been able to be a part of the organization and do good things with the Knicks, because I thought it sucks for that to be part of your legacy. But I can tell you, in terms of memories, Mikal would have to do something. Even missing that game win, that potential game tire, that happens. You could be upset, annoyed, but it won't get to that level unless he does something like that in a similar situation.
Yeah. No, the only part that I remember, because my Knicks fandom starts in '99, so it's tough for me to. It's a lot of borrowed and a lot of research and a lot of history. This is why Blood in the Garden is a good time capsule.
Yes,
for that stretch of Knicks history. But like the only time the Mark Jackson thing became a thing was when they were playing against him in playoff games. All of a sudden, that he went from this New York born rookie of the year, local hero, to then he's a Clipper. And we have Charles Smith. So like we technically got better. And then to your point, Smith has his, again, baseball analogy, Smith has his Bill Buckner moment where we're just like, he's synonymous with this one thing for the rest of his life, and then all of a sudden Mark Jackson is a Pacer and is the extra piece that the Pacers needed to beat the Knicks in a playoff series. So it'll be interesting if Dante ever goes to like the Sixers and then becomes part of the team that eventually beats the Knicks. That would complete the analogy officially. Anthony,
I do think if I did have to say it, I do think that he'll be back.
Dante
at some point.
Everybody says that.
If the core stays around, I think he'll be back.
So I've heard this a lot, and it's not going to be as soon as I think some people think.
No.
Some are saying like this summer, and it's like he's on a very good contract on a team that wants to keep him.
Yeah.
Do I think his first chance to come back for the MLE, especially when it's going to be like $20 million in 2 years? Yeah, I think he could absolutely be back. I also think people need to buckle up with what this core currently is, and potentially just like get used to what this is. Maybe under a new coach. I mean, I don't want to talk about like the new. I actually thought Tibbs coached a good game last night, and
I had no complaints.
It's like a 6-minute stretch at the beginning of the third when they weren't spamming Brunson pick and rolls when he was being guarded by a center. But other than that, like I thought he mixed things up well, pulled the plug. Like Josh Hart, I didn't have an issue with how often he played last night. Like I thought it was just a good game overall schematically. So I don't even want to talk about like maybe under a new coach in the future, because as far as I know, and I gotta say, you spoke to a version of reality that could exist. Like if Jason Tatum is not 100% for that Celtics series, and we just like discovered ourselves against a Detroit team that brought it out of us, then maybe we don't know the ending of this story.
So I'm saying anything can happen.
Yeah.
Anything can happen. So why would I give up? I understand the apathy 1,000%. I understand the apathy, but I'm not going to give it up. I'm not going to give it up because I've seen other teams prosper through fortunate injury luck in the playoffs. Why not the Knicks?
Yeah. Let them win game one in Boston. Let them win game one in Boston and see what this city does. Yeah.
If they figure it out, and that's the thing that Macri always speaks about. this team has been this team for the whole season. So you can't be disappointed in something you already see coming. This is all hopium that they will find themselves and hit another gear. I feel like this series is a wake-up call, and it was always going to be a wake-up call. I expect them to take care and handle business because I do not think the Pistons have an adjustment to stop the Knicks offense. I don't think so. Like you're either going to put Duren on Cat, or you're going to put Tobias Harris. Anybody else is a liability. Cade Cunningham, when guarded by Bridges last night, 0 for 4.
Yeah, effective. Yeah.
So their change of pace with Mikal, I see what they're doing. Wear him down with OG for the first 3 quarters and then start switching it up in the fourth with like Mikal or different people. And shout out to Brunson, shout out to Cat. Defensively, they held their own. They stepped up and they did what they like. There was a lot to be desired, as always, but crunch time, they made the plays, and that's all we can ask for.
Yep. Alrighty.
How you feeling about game 4?
Knicks in 5. I'll be honest, like there's a part of me that wonders if we're due for a Malik Beasley game. There's a part of me that wonders if the Pistons like gave it their all already, you know? Or are we due for a crazy Cade game? I don't know.
Right. Well, their bench scoring is ridiculous. Like the bench disparity.
Yeah.
35-8.
Yeah. Well, 2 of their best offensive players are on the bench is the thing.
That's
like this is their version of like Quickly and Alec Burks and Derrick Rose being off the bench, you know, or like those old school Knicks teams with depth.
I'll tell you, I'm not as worried about one of the pumpkin patch going off as long as it's only one of them.
Yeah.
If all of them are going off, then that is the Detroit game. I just feel like over these 3 games, the Knicks have taken their best punch. 3 straight games and won 2 of those games. One of them, you could argue that they had no business winning, but they overwhelmed them. And this game, they pretty much controlled throughout the entire game. Let me see if I have. They led for 42 minutes in that game. A little over 42 minutes in that game. Total control. Now it's business. You got to go back, handle them again in game 4, try to demoralize them, try to take the win out of their sails, and sweep the leg in game 5. That's what it's got to be. Yeah, I expect them to run what works and keep running what works until it doesn't work anymore. That's what I want to see. Force them to do something else. I don't even think Isaiah Stewart coming back is going to be that big of a deal because he's going to be limited in some way.
Dear God, I hope so.
I'm just saying, like,
even if it's just like if it's to come back and the escalation suddenly happens, you know.
Oh, I get it. To like throw somebody off their square and get ejected.
I don't need Cat getting ejected for something stupid, you know. And I know Beef Stew has actually been like a really good rim protector and what is probably their best option to defend Cat in this series. But I am hoping that what we saw in game 3 was a sign of things to come.
For sure.
And that they'll only be better in game 4. And maybe if you get a 13-point lead, you actually stretch it out to 19, 20, and maybe make a laugher out of one of these games.
For sure.
We'll see.
I want to see them. I just want to see them handle business, man. Like, I don't piss away this goodwill. Handle your business and get out of this series. Don't let it extend for longer than it has to, because that just increases the probability of everything.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. So, yeah, man. Is there anything else? Anything else from the chat? No, there is not, because the thank you for tuning in call to action has appeared on our screen. Andrew, you're as always an awesome guest. Thank you for joining, man.
Thank you for having me. I always love making an appearance on Casual Friday. Yes. I've enjoyed the last bunch of playbacks that we've gotten to do together. We've had some clips go viral, which has been fun.
Love it.
Between the end of the Boston game and now the one that's going to go around of us reacting to the end of the Piston game. So,
yes, I love it.
Yeah,
man, this has
it's
been
always good to
awesome.
be here.
Thank you so much to everybody who tapped in to Casual Friday on the Knicks Film School YouTube channel. You already know the vibes. Like this video if you love what you're hearing. Comment, subscribe, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell another friend that it's the playoffs and you need to hear what the KFS community is talking about. We got tons of additional content for you to tap in. If the YouTube ain't enough, if Macri's newsletter ain't enough, the Knicks Film School newsletter, which you should subscribe to because you get fantastic insight from the man himself, the Dean of Knicks Film School, John Macri. You also get a Patreon, multiple tiers, exclusive content, access to the town hall where you can ask all the KFS personalities questions and have open dialogue on everything concerning the Knicks and the NBA, X's and O's. There's so many. And affordable tiers, not just tiers, affordable tiers that you will get your money's worth. So definitely tap into the Patreon as well. And that does it for Casual Friday. Knicks go up against the Pistons game 4 on Sunday, game 5 on Tuesday. Buckle up, man. Enjoy the ride because it looks like we're starting to see what's in the horizon. And I like what I'm seeing now. I don't want to go on no detours. So let's do it like that. That is GMAC. I'm Jeff J. You are amazing. This was Casual Friday, the Knicks Film School Podcast, YouTube channel.
There you go.
Show. You can get us wherever you listen to podcasts, by the way. This is also in audio-only format. We are multifunctional. We are available in all types of forms for any type of human consumption, whether it's auditory, whether it's visual. You know, whenever we get the tactile technology, you know, we can give you high fives. It's going to be, we are thinking ahead of the game. Knicks Film School, Casual Friday. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week. Go Knicks.